Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of a conversation about living in the moment. Today, we have Rudy Martinez, a friend of mine, joining us for this conversation. Rudy, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing really good. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. It's been a great day. It's been a great day. So, I kind of want to kick off this conversation. You've been around to a lot of places, you've traveled a little bit, so you have at least a different perspective than I do on this. And I just want to ask you, what does it mean to live in the moment?
Well, considering you mentioned that I traveled to a lot of places, yes, I definitely traveled a lot, but I've traveled mostly the United States. So definitely living in the moment to me, it just means like you gotta take what you got and appreciate whatever you're receiving, whatever that may be, to be, completely natural and, you know, to have mellow thoughts, throughout the entire thing and just live right in there.
Which can be a hard thing to do. If I had to describe it, I would definitely say something along the lines of that. I would say for me, it's immersing yourself in whatever it is you're doing at any given time, which can be hard to do. Someone like me overthinks things all the time. So while I'm doing something, I'm overthinking it. And I think that takes away from the experience of living in the moment. Um, but I was listening to a podcast that talked about experiencing your feelings in the moment. So I have first world problems, and sometimes they're little things. Like sometimes they're really tiny things. Like at work we have a vest. And there's pockets in the vest, and from time to time, I'll drop a piece of paper or something. And when I lean over, I drop stuff out of the vest, like, oh, I dropped a pen. And in that moment, I feel a little frustrated, like I dropped the pen on top of dropping other things. Um, and then I stop myself and say, hey, those are first world problems. Like, just leave it alone. You drop the pen, you'll pick it back up. But this podcast was saying that if you feel something, you need to feel it all the way through because it's a real feeling. Like, live in the moment. If you felt frustrated, feel frustrated, let it run its course, and then move on from that. Learn from it, move on from it, and then continue going. Living every experience as it comes to you and experiencing and feeling everything you can in that particular moment.
Yeah, definitely. I totally feel that. So, an example of me with feelings kind of like that. Um, Growing up, I was in many 15s or quinceañeras, whatever you want to call it. Um, and there were, you had to have a big performance. And so, being in so many, I overthought many times as I was doing the performance. It's like, hey, don't mess this up because don't mess this up because it's her big day and she has to feel very special. Don't mess this up. And so I didn't think about making it, completely natural. I should have, thought about it differently as when I was, but being a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, I definitely didn't have that in mind. But looking back at it as I'm growing and looking back at it right now, I could have definitely done so much better. And so we practiced that so many more times. So many times. I mean, and it was just great. Practices were fun and everything. I don't know why I definitely overthought so much that I thought I might mess up or something like that when I knew perfectly in my mind that it's like I could have definitely outshined so many people. Not the 15 girl, but I could have outshined so many people. And so yeah, I should have lived right in the moment and been like, hey, like just let this flow automatically. You've done this so many times. That was just me. And as you grow up, you learn so much more things.
Yeah, you learn from those experiences. Like next time I will immerse myself in the moment. And I mean, sometimes I think it's a lot of pressure we put on ourselves. Like, I can't mess this up. Like you're saying, like you wanted it to be perfect. Like, I can't mess this up. I have to do good. And starting to think about that gets in the way of you living the moment. And that's something, I mean, I struggle with every day when I overthink things. That living in the moment is what I want to be doing. But in my head, I'm thinking, okay, but if I take a funny step, I'm going to slip and everyone's going to laugh at me, for whatever given situation. When you're thinking about graduation, you're like, I hope I don't fall. I hope I don't trip right on the stage when you should be, walking through that stage with confidence and pride because you're graduating. There's so many things in your head that that overwhelms you. And I know that really happened to me because at the two graduations I've been at, I've had someone is walking up as I was walking up the stairs, I've had someone say, "Hey, smile." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, that's right. I'm graduating. Like, I need to be happy about this." And that, I mean, that it completely changed my mindset. And then, like, I do try to immerse myself in the moment. But walking up there, I'm like, left foot, right foot, don't trip. It's going to be easy. Like, it's going to be easy. You're just going to walk across the stage. You know how to walk. But those kind of thoughts prevent me from being in the moment. So I definitely get where you're coming from with that anecdote.
Yeah, definitely. And so, as you mentioned, I traveled a lot and traveled a lot of the United States. So yeah, one time that I can definitely, immerse with this topic specifically is I went to Colorado, and it was fun. It was the first time I had ever been in Colorado, and it was, I don't know, it was just an extremely fun experience, man. I'm not gonna lie, you should definitely visit Colorado. Viewers, if y'all want to visit Colorado, go do it. It's a great state. Not gonna lie. But I went there, to immerse myself in the nature and the parks and whatnot. And so, of course, I went to the Rocky Mountains. So yeah, at the very top. Well, I should probably backtrack. We went in August, and so it was midsummer. Like, you know, as you know, it's really hot, really really hot. It was summer, and so we went all the way to Colorado and everything, and we went to see the mountains. And so we were saying, it's like, oh, since the weather is like this, it definitely isn't gonna be, that bad or whatnot. It's not something we're not used to, because I'm used to the hot weather. And so when we got to the top, like, OMG, I saw snow for the first time. And I'm not saying like snow as in like, little amounts. I mean like nice, big amounts. Can you believe that? Snow,
In the summer.
big amounts of snow. Yeah, big amounts of snow in the middle of summer. In the middle of summer. It was just crazy. Like, I would have never thought that I would have seen snow in August at the very top of a mountain. So yeah, I went over there, and so totally, I immersed myself, yeah, somewhat in that snow and everything. And so it was just a wonderful experience. I grabbed it with my hands and everything, and it was just perfect. Like, it just felt so nice, and it was just great. But then, looking back at it as of right now, I'm older, and so the experience that I have in my mind is not exactly the same. Um, so what do I mean by that? Yeah, I totally, immerse myself in the aspect of feeling the snow and seeing, oh, so this is what snow is like. This is how it is here. This is what it's like in Colorado, where it can snow somewhat. So it was good in that aspect. But as a kid, people grow up and in cartoons, whatever you see, little in magazines and whatnot, you always see someone making a snowman. You always see someone having a snowball fight. You always see someone making a snow fort. Well, that didn't pop up in my mind. It totally did not pop up in my mind. And so, looking back at it, I should have definitely enjoyed that snow so much more, so much more. But definitely living in the moment, it definitely has a lot to do with how you perceive things, in many aspects. It was great, but at the same time, yes, I totally was a little younger, but I should have totally lived in that moment a whole lot more when I experienced it.
I could say the same thing about the first time I encountered snow. It wasn't anywhere near like you're describing it. It was like a very thin sheet of snow, but it was enough for it to be snow. It's like, oh my gosh, it's snow. It doesn't snow in Texas. So any amount of snow is snow, even if it's not. Um, and the first thing I wanted to do was like make a snowball. And that was it. Like all I wanted to do was make a snowball. But there's like so many other things I could have done. And like, yeah, sometimes I like you said, I have some regrets about like not fully immersing myself in the moment. And snow, I guess, happens to be one of the ones that we agree on. Um, but I think at the same time, like I was so surprised, so happy, so anxious to see snow that once I was there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And like nothing else was in my head. Like all I wanted to do was play with snow, throw it, realize that it was really cold. Like, and like when you see it, like you said, in like cartoons and stuff, and like kids are throwing snowballs, you need gloves for that because like with my bare hands, my hands were freezing.
Yeah, yeah, totally. You do need gloves for that. I'm not gonna lie to you. But at the same time, if we're living in the moment, there's no time for gloves. We don't think of doing gloves. But I did go in summer too. I never thought I would need gloves in the middle of summer.
I would say sometimes there's also roadblocks to living in the moment. And I would have to say a lot of that has to do with technology because there's been a lot of opportunities for me to like create some really good memories, immerse myself in everything, get the smells, get the touch, get the feeling, the views and everything. And I pull out my phone and take a picture of it. Where, of course, a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, but a memory that's vivid, I think is worth way more to me. And I think the memory would have been a lot better had I just immersed myself more in it instead of thinking, all right, I need to snap a picture of this real quick. Um, and sometimes it's not even sharing it with anybody, just like for me to have. Um, Sometimes I think maybe if I just didn't take that picture and I just like immerse myself in whatever it is I was doing, I would have a stronger memory of it. But that's a learning process too. Like you start learning, okay, like what is the adequate amount of time I need to be on my phone and this kind of stuff, and like when is it appropriate to use it, and that's like a whole different conversation. But I do think sometimes there are roadblocks that we set or have that stop us from living in the moment.
Yeah, definitely. There's plenty of roadblocks, but yeah, now that you mentioned technology, definitely understand that. Um, Honestly, I don't have too much of a problem to basically immerse myself in that moment, and things like, hey, I need to snap a photo. I don't necessarily have that issue, but I have with other people I've been with. So let's say that yeah, no, no, let's say I've traveled much of the US, right? And so at the same time, I wasn't the only tourist that was traveling. There were so many others. And so yeah, tourism has a lot of photos too. It has a lot of people that have cameras and whatnot. So yeah, it does involve picture shooting a lot, but it's not the same as when you immerse yourself. So in this case, I was in there and everything, and so I was in Colorado, right? And so I was in the Rocky Mountains and everything, and it was just great. I immersed myself in everything. I didn't think about taking pictures because it was just naturally coming. I was just naturally enjoying what I was doing. It was just great, dude. Not gonna lie to you, it was just fantastic. But plenty of times, I looked to my right, I looked to my left, and I saw plenty of people that definitely, they were like, "Oh, I have to snap a picture. I have to snap." They just have to do that, and so they don't live themselves. They don't live their lives at the moment, like you're mentioning, but it does capture something to them. But I can definitely understand that regret. I can definitely understand that.
And that's not to say they're doing it wrong too, right? That's just kind of a, because that's true, like they are missing out on some things, and like I've missed out on some things because of trying to snap a picture. Maybe even like at a soccer game, like I can see that someone's about to score, so I pull out my phone to record when I should just like, and then I miss everything when I should just be watching the players in front of me or something. And that's not to say that we're doing it wrong, but personally I have had some kind of regret saying I think I would have had a better memory if I would have not pulled my phone out, if I would have actually immersed myself into it. Um, but that's true a lot with tourism and even like games and stuff like that. Like people want to record to bring back that memory, to have some kind of like recording that this happened. And personally, I would value more having the experience. And it's been a journey in and of itself trying to get to that point. where I'm feeling everything I'm feeling and I need to live that moment, um, as opposed to I'm feeling something, but let me snap a picture that way. Maybe that helps me feel it again. Whereas I think I would feel it better if I just like had a vivid memory of it.
Yes, totally. I totally understand that. I'm not saying people, the tourists that are taking pictures are wrong. I'm not saying that either. But yes, I can understand how they would miss out. Exactly. So if we reference to me traveling, I've been in El Salvador plenty of times, but I can vividly remember when I went to the volcano. So many, they have many volcanoes over there. And so I reached the top, right? And so my instinct was to, I saw the top of a volcano. Like not many people can say that. And so I thought it's like, hey, take a picture of this. Definitely take a picture of this. But then at the same time, I was like, no, I should probably do this because I know it's gonna be nighttime very, very soon. I have the trip all the way down. So it was kind of just that. And so I can definitely say that sometimes living in the moment are the choices you make. It's not something that's naturally exactly that. Well, it doesn't naturally happen, I guess, in a way. um, it depends on the choices you make, to live in the moment, to live in that one moment.
I think I know where you're going with that, and I agree. I really agree with that. Like there's not a specific moment. Our lives are the moments, and like the choices we make, being true to ourselves, whoever we are, whatever we believe, that makes it part of the moment. There's like you could say your moment was when you got to the top of the volcano and you were looking down, like that was a moment, but the whole trip of going up there was also part of the moment too, you know. So it's not like one fixed single point. It was just your experience throughout the whole thing, and the decision you made and everything you felt up to that point and everything you felt after that point was also part of the moment. So it's not like we need to go out and seek these like milestones, these peaks, all these different things, and like say those are the moments. The moments are everyday life. The moments are waking up in your bed. You know, the moments are having a good meal. The moments are little things that we need to immerse ourselves in. Maybe worry a little less, so we can have the mental space to appreciate what it is we're doing.
Yes, definitely. And currently, with the way the times are right now, it's a little hard to get into that moment. But at the same time, it should make you reflect on the moments you had. Due to COVID, we miss out on a lot of things. I'm not gonna lie to you, and it's just there's a lot of restrictions, and you don't witness the moments the exact same anymore. But yeah, you can definitely reflect and say it's like, oh, I miss when I went out with my friends. But so like when you went out with your friends, you lived in that moment. You didn't think of taking a picture and say, oh, I'm getting such and such food with this person. You think of like, hey, I'm gonna get food with this person and it's gonna be a grand time. Well, we can't do that anymore with the current times. But either way, we for sure know that sooner or later this is gonna go away and this is gonna be great and we're gonna go back to normal. But it should definitely make you reflect. It's like, hey, these were the moments I definitely had.
And I think in those moments, we didn't even know that was a moment. You know, we didn't even think like, oh, this is going to be a really good memory. And I think sometimes those are some of the best memories where you're immersed into it so much you don't even think about, oh, I'm going to remember this one day. You just remember it when we have downtime like this, when we have quarantines and things like this where we can't do those things, then we really start appreciating them. And that's when you're like, man, I'm really glad I was immersed into it. Like, I'm glad I didn't take a picture of it, because you can remember what that food tasted like. You probably have a picture in your head of what it looked like. And that's sometimes enough to jog back the memories. Remembering a certain restaurant or, you know, a certain park or a certain experience, that's enough to bring back those feelings. And I think in those times we weren't really thinking, all right, this is going to be a moment. Like it just always is a moment, and we're always living moments.
Definitely, we are most definitely living moments every single second of the day that we have. yeah, it's just great, and it's a matter of life, and it's the way you do it. But like I mentioned before, it's a choice that you make to live in that moment. But yeah, you don't notice it at, whenever if it happens. But yeah, once you look back at it in the future, you can definitely say that was a moment. I remember that vividly. I remember exactly how this was, and how the scenery was. I remember exactly how this person. I remember the conversations we had. It's things like that, and living, as human beings, and having basically um, a consciousness and whatnot. It should definitely be in your mind to be living in the moment.
And expressing the feelings you express along with that, like, or expressing the feelings you feel should be a part of that too. um, because then we get to overthinking things like, I should be feeling this and I'm not, or why am I not feeling this, or different kinds of, like, I shouldn't be doing this or shouldn't be doing that. Like, live up to whatever life presents you and experience that. And that kind of goes back to like work, when I was dropping stuff, and when I like felt a little frustrated because I kept dropping things, being clumsy. Part of living in the moment for me at that time was feeling frustrated, and feeling that through would help me grow and help me create a memory now that's completely different from the memory I think I would have created had I experienced that situation or addressed that situation differently. And it goes back to kind of appreciating the little things in life too.
Definitely, you need to appreciate many, many little things in life. And I mean, it just goes back. I'm in the future right now. I think back to the Colorado. I think back to the many 15s that I've been in. Like, it's the exact same thing. For sure, I couldn't have messed up. I could have messed up the 15s, the performance and whatnot. But if I did, it definitely wasn't. It didn't mean that it was the end of the world for me. It definitely did not mean that. Um, and so I could have chosen as like, hey, I'm gonna do this very well and everything. But yeah, as you grow up and as you grow, you definitely learn so much more, and you live in the moment a lot more too.
I have an example like that. It's more to do with in school though. So I moved to UT in January, and it was like a completely different experience for me. Um, and I have a lot of regrets in not living in the moments, because I had some really awesome professors and I had some really smart classmates. Like, the ideas and everything was like impressive. Like, wow, this is a very good learning environment. And because I was overthinking too much, when it was my turn to speak, I didn't live in the moment. I would either pass up that opportunity, or like just not speak at all, or give a mediocre answer, when I should have immersed myself into what I was listening and then gave my honest thoughts. But there was that roadblock of, I don't want to sound dumb. What if they don't like my ideas? And now, like, I regret that a lot. Like, I should have lived in the moment for that, because they would have been accepting. And if it wasn't, then it was a learning experience. And they're all moments now. Like, there wasn't a singular point. Like, there wasn't a climax like you kind of see in the movie or something, where like that was the moment. Like, it was all the moment. So I have a lot of memories in that regard of times I should have lived up to the moment. Now, when school opens back up and I go next semester or the semester after that, I have a completely different outlook on how I'm going to embrace life and how I'm going to immerse myself in that stuff, and not holding back, and then allowing myself to be part of these conversations and things like that. So, although it's a regretful thing that I wasn't very immersed in my class beforehand, I learned from that and will grow into different things. So even though we might have these regrets of not living in the moment, we need to look back and learn how we can improve upon that.
Yes, most definitely. Living in the moment is a big, big thing. So I just recently moved to A&M. Um, well, sorry, to College Station, and I'm gonna be going to A&M. And I can definitely say that it's been a wild ride and everything.
Mhm.
And I school hasn't started for me exactly, but either way, it's definitely like that. Exactly as you say, you should live more in the moment. You look back at it and it's like, hey, I had these wonderful classmates, I had these wonderful professors, and everything. But at the same time, living in the moment, yes, it does have to do with the choice that you make, but living in the moment also has to come naturally. Um, and yeah, I understand. I'm contradicting myself because I said it doesn't come naturally too much, but sometimes as you're living in the moment, well, not sometimes. Living in the moment is whenever, as you grow up and you look back at it, and it's like it depends on how you perceive that memory or that photo or anything. It depends on your perception of things. It's like, hey, so this is living in the moment. This is exactly what this is about.
You're right, and I don't necessarily think you're contradicting yourself more than proving that it's a nuanced topic. Like we could honestly probably talk about this all day because it's so nuanced. Like it comes naturally, but at the same time, it's like not all naturally. Sometimes it's remembering something else that helps you live it to the fullest. Like there's a lot of little things about it that make it the moment. That some aren't natural, some like you have to induce into it to get the most out of it. But I don't think you're contradicting yourself more than proving that there's a lot to it and it's very nuanced.
Yeah, I can definitely say it is very nuanced. Everything's basically a growing experience.
Yeah.
Everything's a growing experience, and so it depends on how you take that and how you live in that moment. And everything, it depends just on your perception of things. It's like, hey, this is gonna be, as you mentioned before, living in the moment has to be is about waking up every day or um, what you eat for breakfast and whatnot. It depends on how you look back at those memories and what you ate that day, what you did that day, how you spent that day, whether you thought that was a good day, a bad day, or whatnot. It depends on that. And so that's where I'm trying to say is like that's where the choices come in and whatnot. But um, at the same time, it does come naturally whenever it happens. And so yeah, it's definitely a perception of things. And so as you grow up and get older and whatnot, it depends on how you look back at that one memory. It's like, hey, this was a good time. Hey, this was a bad time. Sometimes living in the moment isn't all good. Sometimes living in the moment isn't all bad. It just depends. But living in the moment shouldn't exactly be is like good or bad. It should just be about how you perceive that time. And as you grow older, you definitely understand how to live in that moment so much better.
Yeah, even if you have a bad experience or something, as you grow older, I think you remember that experience and say, you know what, I'm kind of glad that happened anyways. Like it was part of the trip, part of the journey. So even though it was a bad living in the moment experience, later on you'll be grateful that you have it, and you might not. It's like we said, this is all kind of nuanced. And if I like could wrap this up in any way, um, and talk about like what I've learned from this conversation, it's growing, essentially, just growing, learning from the
Yeah.
past experiences and using that to grow into a person that appreciates the little things in life a little bit more. Not because you should be doing it, but because it's another way to live to your fullest potential. So grow to be to your fullest potential. So you can always be yourself. So you can always be ready to live in the moment. So you can say, all right, I had some regrets, but from now on, I'm going to immerse myself into everything I do. And by being myself as best as possible every day, then every little thing is going to be a moment from, like we said before, from getting up in the morning to having, the same meal, but appreciating it more because of that. That can then now be a moment, and I think you'll find that you'll start being a lot more happy when you start appreciating the little things in life. But of course, that's just a suggestion that I'm trying to live my life by. Don't necessarily have to do it yourself. But Rudy, is there any closing remarks? Anything you would like to add?
No, there's not necessarily anything I would like to add, but I mean, other than the fact that definitely living in the moment, it isn't good and it isn't bad. I've had my fair share of bad experiences. I can definitely assure you that. And I feel like everyone that knows me can definitely say that I've had my fair share of bad experiences. But living in the moment is just how you look back at that. So it's like, yeah, definitely. I stubbed my toe on the table that one day, but sometimes, sometimes you look back at it and it's like maybe when you stubbed your toe, you weren't able to drive. You weren't able to drive to this place, and at this place something bad happened or something like that. Like it's all good and it works out. Living in the moment is looking back at it and saying, hey, this was a good thing that it was a good thing that this bad thing happened. That's all I have to say about this, man.
I
Thank
like
you.
that. I like that. Work with what life throws at you, make the most out of it. In some way, shape, or form, it was all for a reason. So just do what you can. Rudy, I'm really glad we had this conversation. It was really insightful. I think I learned a little bit from it. You are always welcome to come back on the show. It was really nice talking to you, dude. Take care.
You too. I'll take so much care, dude. I'm gonna come back one day.
Definitely. And have fun at A&M. It's not as good as UT, I can tell you that, but that's just some bias right there. But hopefully you enjoy every moment you're there. To everyone out there, I would encourage you to do your best to live in the moment and appreciate the little things in life. I think it'll make you a happier person. I think there's a lot of research done on that as well. But again, it's your life. Work with what's thrown at you and make the most out of it. Everyone, be safe. Peace.